the release of the new Fantastic Four film by Marvel Studios, now is the perfect time to talk about all of the live-action Fantastic Four suits and rank them from worst to best. The Fantastic Four made their first appearance in 1961, and since then we've had a few different interpretations of the Fantastic Four on the big screen to varied success. From sleek uniforms to very odd design choices, each suit has their own quirks that we'll talk about. We're also going to be ranking each member individually, but for the instances where we have more than one person wearing the same suit, I'll be putting them together in the same ranking since it would get really redundant talking about the same suit multiple times in a row. So with that out of the way, let's move on to the rankings. Starting the list at number 14, I have the Fanforstic Thing suit. The worst Fantastic Four suit goes to Jamie Bell's Thing from the 2015 Fantastic Four movie. The design is really awkward, with the protruding rocks being asymmetrical and not visually interesting to look at. This isn't helped with the film in general having a darker color tone to it, which I think does a huge disservice to the more colorful appearance of Thing and the rest of the family and other medias. And that's not even taking into account that this is a giant CGI monstrosity. But worst of all, he's not wearing pants. There's nothing to help break up the rocky textures, and it's so weird that they made the decision to have Thing on full display. It is absolutely not fantastic. At number 13, I have Kate Mara's Invisible Woman suit. The Fanforstic suits were designed to complement each member's individual powers, which would make each suit stand out in a unique way. And for the Invisible Woman, they went with the direction to give her a black bodysuit. It has some layers to it, and at the very least, she's able to roll up her sleeves, but that's really it. And the dots and quartz sticking out on various parts of the outfit make it look more like a motion capture suit rather than a superhero costume, which I guess does work with her powers, but it just looks really bad. This outfit barely even passes as a prototype suit, and unfortunately, the rest of the suits from this film aren't much better. At number 12, I have Miles Teller's Mr. Fantastic suit. This suit is one step above Sue's look, only because it puts in a little more effort to make it unique. It's still an all-black suit, but has bundles of elastic cables, telescoping joints, and fabric that allows him to stretch in the outfit while still being made in a realistic way. However, I don't think making the suit with that mindset does it any favors, because it still looks very bland. It once again feels like a prototype suit, but even then, it's just not a great look. I could definitely see Miles Teller as a young Reed Richards. Even then, that barely gives it any brownie points. The suit is still a little memorable, but only slightly and not for the right reasons. At number 11, I have Carl Ciafarello's Thing suit. This was from the canceled 1994 Fantastic Four movie, starring Carl Ciafarello as the Thing, and was the first live-action appearance for the character. Thing's appearance is constructed as a full-body suit made entirely of rubber, and has a pretty decent appearance that sells the rocky texture of his skin. They had two different versions of the helmet, one used specifically for fight scenes, and the other being a remote control motorized head with facial movements controlled by somebody else. And because of that, I'm not really the biggest fan of how the face is formed, mainly with the large eyebrow outlines. Ben is seen wearing sweatpants, but his primary uniform consists of a blue Speedo with a white belt, which is accurate to the comics, but does not translate well to live action. And unfortunately, the biggest caveat about this suit is that, like the film, was made with a very low budget. It looks very awkward, and not even allowing a cool suit underneath made it unbearable for Carl to wear while filming. All things considered, they did a pretty decent job with the budget they had, but it can't be denied that it is still a low quality suit. Starting the top 10, I have Michael B. Jordan's Human Torch suit. The final suit from the 2015 film has Johnny Storm taking the W in the wardrobe department. It's another black bodysuit, but to protect others from the intense heat he emits, it's covered in armor panels that also double as radiators. And most interestingly, this is the only suit that has any nod to the four insignia, as there are 4 small pipes lined up on the left side of the chest. This is once again only slightly better than the other suits, but it still works the best as a realistic prototype suit for the Human Torch. He's the only member of the 4 that has a good balance between the comic book costume and a practical suit catered specifically for his powers. It's not amazing, especially because when you take out the panels that add some layering to the suit, it's just another black bodysuit. However, it makes the best out of a bad situation and at least feels somewhat like a Fantastic Four suit. At number 9, I have the 1994 Fantastic Four suits. These suits are from that canceled 1994 Fantastic Four movie I mentioned earlier, and while they aren't necessarily bad interpretations per se, their low quality and lack of care is what put them this low on the list. These are the spandex suits that take the style of the dark blue base color with white necklines, waistbands, gloves, and boots. I personally prefer the black neckline over the white, white, but I still think the white looks fine here. It's just the spandex that gives it an overall cheap and low quality look that dates the suits a bit. The 4 logo is okay, but on each of the suits, it's placed way too low, and in Sue's case, cuts into the waistband. This is because the neckline on her suit is too long, which looks even more ridiculous when she stands next to Reed and Johnny, since their suits match. And all they had to do to fix this was make the neckline smaller and move the logo higher while also reducing the logo size in general. But the fact that they didn't make this fix just shows how much care was put into these suits in the first place. The overall appearance of Reed, Sue, and Johnny look passable, especially when they're in costume, but a little bit of extra effort could have gone a long way to make these suits better. At number 8, I have Ebon Moss-Bachrach's The Thing. One of the things I like about the suits from the new Fantastic Four film in general is that each suit has a small difference to make each one unique, while still feeling like a team uniform. There's a raised pattern on the suit that gives the suit more texture and has a very welcoming appearance. I'm not 100% on board with it, but I think it looks fine for the feel they're going for, and gives it a very family-friendly appearance, which is very appropriate. For Ben specifically, he has a white turtleneck with the white running down the side of his sleeves, with an additional 4 logo on his belt, no gloves, and large white boots. The 4 logo on the middle of the chest is the perfect size, and I think the design of it with the white and blue lines fit in with the rest of the suit. Ebon has a practical suit, but it's also apparent that they use CGI to touch it up, and it looks great. Personally speaking though, I wish that Thing didn't have a top with his uniform. I get it, because having him shirtless would make him feel excluded and awkward with the 4 having more celebrity status in this film, but it just doesn't feel right to me. It's like he's a heavyweight bodybuilder wearing a tight Christmas sweater rather than a uniform, and I think he just looks better without the shirt, which we thankfully do see at times in the new film. It still looks great, just not personally my favorite. At number 7, I have Joseph Quinn's Human Torch suit. Johnny's costume from First Steps is nearly identical to Ben's, with the minor difference being the white gloves and boots. When he's engulfed in flames, the suit complements the fire form very well, and is a big reason why I put this right above Ben's suit. I'm still not a fan of the white running down the sleeves, but I can't deny that it does make Johnny stand out, and feels appropriate for his character. Overall, it's a decent Fantastic Four suit, and once again fits with the vibes of the film, but the white running down the sleeves really is the main thing that holds it back for me. At number 6, I have John Krasinski's Mr. Fantastic suit. This one is pretty interesting, because for the longest time, John Krasinski was one of the more popular fan casts for Reed Richards in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and it was a welcome surprise to see him actually have a cameo in the film Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness as an alternate universe version of Mr. Fantastic, which was made before Pedro Pascal was officially cast for the new film. And they didn't pull any punches here, as it takes the traditional design of the Fantastic Four uniform and modernizes it with different textures and stitching, similar in style to the other MCU suits. The darker shade of blue and black look great on here, and John looks fantastic, no pun intended, as Reed Richards. But unfortunately, where the costume falls short is with the over-design problem that plagues the typical MCU suits. It's safe to say it would be more visually pleasing if it was more streamlined, because there's so many lines and layers on here to the point where it's really unnecessary, especially with how little screen time Reed has in the film. To top it off, when doing research for this video, I discovered that this suit was actually completely developed through CGI, with no official physical costume being made for the film. This is apparently because it was too late in the filming process to make a costume for him, and even Black Bolt. I knew Black Bolt was CGI, but I'll admit that I had no idea Reed's was as well. However, I don't think I can look at this suit the same way now. It's great looking at a distance, and especially as an alternate universe version of Mr. Fantastic, but I am glad that they went in a different direction for the new film. However, I think that John Krasinski's appearance with the full beard really nails the look of Mr. Fantastic, so that's why I placed it above Johnny and Thing's suits from the new movie. Starting the top 5, I have Chris Evans' post-apocalyptic Human Torch suit. This was another welcome surprise, as Chris Evans reprised his role as the Human Torch in the film Deadpool and Wolverine. This costume is a variation of his classic uniform from the 2005 film, but was also made with the intention of faking out the audience. When we first see him, we're under the safe assumption that what we're looking at is Captain America discarded into the void, but shortly after he shouts, "Flame on!" and it's revealed that he's actually Johnny Storm. And it is a pretty clever fake out with the loosely draped shawl over a blue uniform that hides the top. And the inclusion of the red gloves, brown belt, and blue tactical pants with the black boots sell you on the illusion that this is Captain America, while still having it make sense for Human Torch to wear this type of outfit in the post-apocalyptic world of the Void. As for the top, I think it's a great look with the logo in the center, having minimal black design lines to break it up a bit, and the texture detailing on the suit is top-notch. I actually want to see how the other Fantastic Four members would look with this design, because I debatably like this the most out of everything on this entire list. It's unfortunate I can't put this any higher, because this whole suit was designed specifically for a joke, but it excellently serves the purpose it was meant for. However, with some minor touch-ups to make it a more official suit, I could see this being my favorite. At number 4, I have Vanessa Kirby's Invisible Woman suit. This is the closest we get to the traditional Fantastic Four suit, with the main centerpiece being the white collar, and I like this so much more than having the white run down the sleeves. It stands great next to the other suit designs, but I also wouldn't mind it if every member of the Fantastic Four looked like this. The rest of my thoughts on this suit are pretty much identical to what I said earlier, so I won't repeat myself. I also think that Vanessa Kirby really pulls off the look for Sue Storm, and that really complements the suit as a whole. At number 3, I have Pedro Pascal's Mr. Fantastic suit. The final suit from the MCU's Fantastic Four lineup is Pedro Pascal as Mr. Fantastic, and obviously this is my favorite of the 4. This look is identical to Sue's, with the only difference being a blue collar instead of white. I like both designs roughly the same, but in this case, I think it gives the suit a cleaner appearance, especially with how the suit is textured. It looks a bit odd when standing next to the other Fantastic Four members, but it's also a good indicator that he's the leader of the group. However, my biggest problem with this interpretation of Mr. Fantastic has nothing to do with the suit itself, but rather the appearance of the actor. I have nothing against Pedro Pascal, but he just doesn't look like Reed Richards to me. It could just be a me thing, but when I see an actor who already has an iconic role in a big blockbuster project, I get easily distracted and I can't unsee the actor portraying the character. Because when I look at this suit, I don't see Reed Richards. I see the Mandalorian cosplaying as Reed Richards. That doesn't necessarily sway my opinion of the suit itself, or even the placement on this list, because it genuinely is a fantastic suit. But I thought it was worth mentioning since this isn't the first time this has happened, at least for me. At number 2, I have the 2005 suits for Reed, Sue, and Johnny. These are the suits that were used for the 2 Fantastic Four films made in the mid-2000s, and is in my opinion the best interpretation of these suits in live action that we've seen so far. These sleek uniforms incorporate a simple 4 emblem on the left side of the chest into a blue bodysuit with black accents, with each suit having a black collar, black gloves and boots, and a sharp-looking black chevron in the center. Even though the colors are a bit dark, I do like the more simple design, and having 3 out of the 4 members wearing the same outfit gives that sense of camaraderie and makes them feel like a singular unit working as a team. The only small issue that these suits have is that they're skin tight, which means that the clinging fabric is very form-fitting. There's also a zipper along the neckline that is actually unzipped in promotional pictures and certain shots in the film for Jessica Alba's character, which just feels like it was included for fan service. These suits aren't perfect by any means, but they're an iconic part of the Fantastic Four legacy by being the best suits that we've seen in live action so far. And like I mentioned earlier, it was nice to see a somewhat officially updated version of this suit in Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm looking forward to seeing what Marvel Studios can do to try and top them with the new Fantastic Four now officially in the MCU. And that leads us to number 1 with the Michael Chiklis Thing suit. It was fantastic back in 2005, and it's fantastic today. Thing's design from the mid-2000s films is the best Fantastic Four suit we've seen in live action, without question. It's amazing just how good the makeup holds up, even by today's standards. The cracks of orange stone that form the natural musculature of Thing's figure takes the distinct cartoon design of Thing and makes him feel like he stepped right out of a comic book, while still making it look extremely realistic. These incredible practical effects easily clear the CGI, especially because Michael is able to use his facial expressions and natural body movements to bring the character to life, more so than the puppeteer-controlled movements from Carl's suit back in the 90s. Adding to that, the sleek blue and black pants that are used for his actual uniform complement and match that of the rest of the Fantastic Four, and like I said earlier, makes them feel like a unit working as a team. It just goes to show that no matter how far CGI evolves, nothing will top the triumph of great practical makeup and costume design. But let me know in the comments where you would rank these suits, and let me know which version of the Fantastic Four is your favorite. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you want to see more content like this from me, you can subscribe and follow me on all of my other social media platforms, all of which has similar content that I have here on this channel. And I'd like to give a big thank you to all of my Grave Gang YouTube members listed here on screen. If you want to be listed on my next video, plus a bunch of other rewards, become a YouTube member today. And if you want to watch another video of mine, you can check it out over on this side of the screen over here. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you guys next time.